It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. Today we got a beer from Aldi in their Harpers Ruby Red Ale, 5.2% ABV, and it's coming in at £1.45 a bottle. Let me double check that. Got my receipt here. Ruby Red Ale, £1.45. Now the Hobgoblin beer comes in at £1.59. So there's a 14p difference. Here is the Harpers at £1.45, described as a full-bodied dried fruit and toffee taste sensation. Here is the, of course, Hobgoblin Ruby beer, as they call it, 5.5% ABV. Now I'm pretty sure when I first reviewed this beer, long time ago now, 2010 maybe, I'm pretty sure the ABV was higher. If I was to have a guess at it, I think it was probably about 5.2% ABV back then. Since I reviewed the beer in 2010, they've been taken on by Marston's as a brewing company, and then Marston's got purchased by, or more or less, kind of like when the last time I heard, it was 50-50 partnership with Carlsberg. So really, this beer's Carlsberg Marston's now, this Hobgoblin, and so is this Harper's Ruby Red Ale, because according to Beer Advocate, Harper's Brewing Company's beers are contract brewed by Marston's Brewing Company for Aldi. Are you with me? So basically what I'm saying, they're both from Marston's Carlsberg Brewing Company. Let's get them out into a glass, see what we get. But what's interesting about this is you've got a higher ABV here from the Harper's Ruby Red Ale, and it's 14p cheaper, and it's coming from the same company. It's coming from, okay, Whichwood are probably brewing this down in Oxford, sending it up to little Aldi, and Harper's are probably brewing this at Burton-on-Trent. Let's get them out into a glass, see what we get. British flag here on the bottle cap. Look at this. And I suppose the question needs to be asked, if Hobgoblin used to be 5.2% ABV, is this just the original recipe for Hobgoblin? Is this what we're getting here for cheaper? So we got a one finger tan coloured head, chestnutty ruby coloured beer, clear, no sediment in the bottom of the glass. So it's not a bottle conditioned beer. There's the Hobgoblin sign on the cap there. Beer pouring out. Yeah, this looks different, doesn't it? Now then. Does it? Let's stick that there. So this is the 5% Hobgoblin, one finger tan coloured head, ruby coloured beer in the glass, a little bit of carbonation. Again, it's not a bottle conditioned beer. Chestnut ruby coloured beer. Let's get these two beers side by side and look at that. I can't tell the difference. If you can tell the difference, then please let me know in the comments box, but they're identical, aren't they? So as Hobgoblin's the lower in the ABV, let's try this first. I've not had a bottle of Hobgoblin in probably 8 years. Let's get the aroma. It smells quite nice actually. Bit of nuttiness, bit of breadiness coming through, biscuity. Bit of toffee in the aroma. Now then, let's dive in. Cheers, everybody. That's really quite nice. It's a little bit syrupy. It's a little bit, you can tell there's some brewing syrups being used to brew this beer. But it's quite pleasant, you know, there's some toffee flavour coming through. It's a little bit roasty. I think they've worked on this beer since I last tried it. I definitely think they put some, they've been fine-tuning this beer, I believe. That's all right. Surprised me. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? You go on this craft beer journey, you end up buying multiple New England IPAs and every other style of beer out there. You forget about beers like Hobgoblin exist. I think I'm probably not the only one who's forgotten that Hobgoblin exists. And when you go back to Hobgoblin, you don't really have any expectations. You don't really have any preconceptions. You just try it and you go, ooh, actually, right, yeah, there's some sweet brewing syrups going on. I can taste that. I can taste that the beer's been brewed to a budget. But at the same time, it's not unpleasant. It's not offensive. There's no off flavours in the beer. There's a little bit of licorice, there's some toffee, there's some bitterness. That's really quite nice. It's really quite nice. Let's try the Harpers Ruby Red Ale at 5.2%. Now, more fruit flavours coming through on this one, more kind of like plum, figs, prune, dark fruit. Now that's really interesting. Less of the kind of brewing syrups maybe, more of a hop flavour coming through on this one. Again, really pleasant beer for £1.45 a bottle. You can't buy a bottle of Franciscana for that. You can't buy a bottle of, probably the same price, Aldi's Weissbier, Aldi's Pilsner. There's a bit of choice here now. More of a fruit bomb. Yeah, more plum, fig, prune. Bit of bitterness coming through, bit of a spiciness coming through. It's a different beer. It's a different beer, definitely, than, I mean, of course, going into this review, you're probably asking the question, what's the difference between the two beers? They're 0.2% ABV either side, one 5.2, one 5% ABV. They're both coming from the same company. They're both called Ruby Red Ales. What can possibly be different? There is a difference, definitely. If you're more a kind of, if you like your plum and fig and prune dark fruit flavours, say from a stout, then you will definitely like the Harper's Ruby Red Ale. If you find comfort in a slightly sweeter, like the brew, if you understand what I mean by brewing syrups, it's kind of a bit of a grey area in brewing. I've brewed with some large regional breweries. I know they don't like me talking about it, but I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm like, well, okay, we're putting that in a beer, are we? And of course, I've seen it. I haven't brewed with a regional brewer for years, but I know what goes on, and I'm going to talk about it because my interests are for you as the consumer, the people who are watching me, who are buying these beers. I've seen it. I've seen, right, let's pull the brewing syrups lever, and in goes all this brewing syrup. I've seen it with my own eyes. And once you see it, and then you can recognise the taste, you'll never get away from it. You'll never be able to get away from like, this has brewing syrups in it. But not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. It's a little bit like cherry cola, if you like. If you want to really kind of nail down on if you want to understand what brewing syrups taste like, if you've ever had a beer, a darker beer that probably tastes a little bit like, only a little bit, I'm not saying full on, but a little bit like cherry coke, then you know that it's got the brewing syrups in the beer. The point is, one is £1.59, dirt cheap in it, dirt cheap in this day and age, and one's £1.45. What would I choose? Do you know, this is going to be a tough call. Hobgoblin. Harpers Ruby Red Ale. On this occasion, I would say the better tasting beer here, and I nearly said Hobgoblin, and then I thought to myself, yeah, it's more money. You've got to weigh everything up, haven't you? It's more money, it's lower in ABV, and the Harpers taste hoppier. The Harpers Ruby Red Ale tastes hoppier. I'm going to say the Harpers. I'm going to say the Harpers is an 8 out of 10 for your money. £1.45, 8 out of 10. Hobgoblin, £1.59. Did I say £1.59? I think I did. Yeah, £1.59. 7 out of 10. Both perfectly decent beers. It's your preference. It's your call at this stage. Which one you buy. For me, if I was in Aldi, I'd buy a couple of the Rheinbacher Pilsner, I'd buy a couple of the Rheinbacher Weissbier, and I'd probably buy a bottle of Hobgoblin and a bottle of Ruby Red Ale. And there's 6 beers there. There's 6 beers on a Saturday night for, what? You do the maths. Something like 12 quid. 12 quid, maybe 14 quid. It's a cheap night, isn't it? It's a really cheap night. Consider the £4 craft beers in Tesco's and Morrison's and the other supermarkets. You're having 3 beers for 12 quid. I mean, I know where I'm going to go. Yeah, thanks for watching. Please put your comments in the comments box. Subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews. Give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom. Cheers.